Chapter 32, The Survivalist. When you think about a toxic work culture, a few real-life examples tend to come to mind. Jeffrey Skilling at Enron, Elizabeth Holmes at Theranos. But what doesn't tend to come to mind is what is commonly referred to as the war at home. There are so many people at this very moment living in a toxic work environment, and many of them don't even know it. Look at me, for example. I lived it for years and didn't realize it until it was nearly too late. The reason I'm able to sit here right now and tell you this story is because I came to a realization, and in reality, it wasn't anything new. I just became aware of the truth of the now and before. I still don't know how I managed to go so long without noticing it, and it's a shame that it took the death of my best friend and my most loyal companion to realize it. After Maverick died, the thing that made life easier after work was gone. A dog kept me sane, and I didn't even realize it. And it wasn't just work. It was other things, but work was sort of at the forefront. I had told the CFO that I was coming to the end of what was a very long rope. But after Maverick died, it's like that rope snapped. I was no longer going to tolerate the behaviors of a totalitarian. I was no longer going to watch good people walk out of the door. I was no longer going to betray myself day in and day out. It was maddening. I still can't believe I allowed someone like that to flourish in my presence. They say when you have strong feelings about something or someone, you should write it in a letter and burn it. I have a mind to write the letter all right, only I'd send it to her. But I can't because, unfortunately, I don't know the zip code for hell. One of the proudest moments of my life was walking out of that building for the last time. When I did, I made myself 3 promises. 1, I would never again work in a place that didn't put the value of people first. 2, I would never again stand idly by whilst toxicity danced around me. And 3, I would never again abandon myself to survive someone else's dysfunction. Living these promises out loud meant that I no longer had anything to lose. Most of the time, people fear speaking up because they're afraid to lose their job. That isn't a fear I carry around anymore. If a toxic workplace chooses to fire me, well, that would only be an improvement on my life. And that is an improvement I can live with. From the Hyman blog and the Press Play podcast network, I'm JD Hyman. As a Black man living here in America, I am living proof that while all men were created equal, not all men are equal. We're here to dig into the American political system, explore and unearth experiences from the human condition, and be a catalyst for some hard conversations that need to be had. Conversations that demand to be had. No matter what brought you here, I'm glad you came. Once again, my name is JD, and this is the Hyman Podcast. Part 1. Truth takes time. I was able to come out the other side, and I wish I could say I did so unscathed, but that would be a lie. There are emotional scars that I'm sure will never heal. A person, another human being, inflicted so much damage upon me that it nearly broke me. And here we are nearly a year later, and it still feels like it just happened. The more I think about it, maybe I don't want those scars to heal. Maybe I need them to help me understand what the good feels like, what it looks like, to appreciate it more. There were days where I pulled up to the facility and I sat in the parking lot. I had to prepare myself for whatever fresh hell was awaiting me. And it was always something. If it wasn't related to the staff, it was related to a patient. And if it wasn't related to either of those, it had something to do with the building itself. A building that, between you, me, and the fence post, should be condemned. But that's neither here nor there. But it was always something. And I would sit in the car and tell myself all kinds of things to motivate myself to open the door and to walk into the building. Were there other people doing the same thing? That wouldn't surprise me. Some of the things that stick out with us most are the moments in life where pain is apparent and unyielding. And that is what it felt like sometimes. It felt like the pain refused to yield. And still, I stayed. I smiled. I made nice. I kept things civil. I made it work because when you're in survival mode, you do what is necessary to get through the day. You make yourself small. You don't turn your head too far to either side. Instead, you remain focused on what's right in front of you. Because if you turn your head too far to one side or the other, you might see something upsetting. Someone getting mistreated, someone getting yelled at, someone being denigrated. And if you have any character whatsoever, you don't stand idly by and allow that. So you never put yourself in a position where you have to defend anyone, not even yourself. In survival mode, you're a little bit selfish. Actually, you're a lot of bit selfish, but you have to be. After the incident with Jean getting yelled at right in front of me, that was the last straw for me. I remember going home that day and applying for jobs like a madman. I remember putting in a few days of PTO because I couldn't bear the thought of having to take up the same space as that woman. I remember getting a call back from one of the jobs I'd applied for. I remember packing up my office down to the bare bones because I knew my days in that building were numbered. I remembered leaving town for a long weekend, and I remembered getting a call about a job offer, and I remember saying yes. Later, when I was back in the office, she came in and sat in the chair across from me. She looked around the room. It was nearly barren. "Are you leaving?" she asked. "No, I'm prepping for paint," I said sarcastically. I looked at her the same way you look at someone who shows up to the fire they started, curious about the damage but completely unwilling to help put it out. People like that are often detached from reality. They build a version of the past that serves them, one where they were always the reasonable one, always the misunderstood hero. It's revisionist history at its finest, and they believe it down to the punctuation. The cruelty becomes tough love. The damage becomes someone else's reaction. And the truth, well, that gets replaced with a story so polished they forget they were the actual villains in the whole thing. There's this phrase I heard once: "May the bridges I burn help light my way." It's often used to convey a kind of purposeful defiance, a willingness to walk away from something toxic or harmful, even if doing so means cutting ties or facing consequences. It flips the usual regret we associate with burning bridges into something empowering, like saying, "I'm not just okay with leaving this behind, I'm better off for it." Some people use it with a bit of fire, others with clarity. Either way, it's not about destruction for the sake of it, it's about illumination through loss. And for a long time, I thought it was just a clever line, something people said to feel brave about leaving something behind. But now I get it. Walking away wasn't reckless, it was necessary. It was the only honest thing left to do. And if that means burning the bridge behind me, so be it. I didn't come here to go back, because whatever that place was, whatever that culture demanded of me, it was never meant to hold me. It was meant to use me, to drain me, and to shrink me. And I will not build again what was meant to break me. More on this after the break. Part 2, Terms and Conditions. They don't tell you what happens after you walk away. That once the adrenaline fades, what's left is something quieter but stronger. Not rage, not grief, just clarity, a knowing. The kind that settles into your bones and says, never again. This part isn't about healing, not yet. It's about setting the terms for what comes next. Because when you walk through fire, you don't come back untouched. You don't burn the same way twice. What's left now is fireproof, stripped down, solid, not harder, but more honest. And with that comes the conditions, the boundaries, the quiet decisions about what I will and will not tolerate again. I'm not here to play a part. I'm not here to make anyone comfortable. I'm here to build something that doesn't ask me to disappear to belong. I spent far too much time acquiescing to the wrong things for the sake of keeping the peace. Well, I don't do that anymore. I'm not afraid to call things out anymore. It serves no purpose to keep quiet, and it serves no purpose to allow people to exist in the same space unchecked. If your decisions involve me, you're going to get my opinion whether you like it or not. It's different now. I don't stay quiet when something's off. I say it directly. I've learned that protecting people's comfort at the expense of my own integrity isn't noble. It's dangerous, and I don't play that game anymore. I draw lines in the sand. I name things when they're wrong. I don't let silence be mistaken for agreement. And when something crosses the line, I say so, loud enough for the people in charge to hear. I've stopped waiting for permission to be taken seriously. If something needs to be escalated, I escalate it. If it involves my work, my team, or my ethics, I make my position known, clearly and without apology. Because my expertise matters, my knowledge matters, my training, my lived experience. They belong in the room. I don't say that with ego. I say it because it's true. And too often, people like me are expected to prove themselves twice over just to be heard once. I don't chase respect anymore. I claim it. These are the terms and conditions now. You get me, all of me, not the diluted version, not the agreeable version, not the version that stays silent just to keep the meeting running smoothly. You get my insight, my honesty, and you get my pushback, even the parts you don't always agree with. And the thing is, disagreement isn't a threat. We live in a free society, and an excellent use of free will is to disagree with me. But how we disagree, that matters. Because disagreement isn't an excuse to diminish. It's not a license to condescend, to ignore, or to control the narrative. You can challenge me, just not by trying to erase me in the process. I welcome hard conversations. I don't welcome disrespect. I built this podcast on the premise of having hard conversations, and sometimes that means challenging the status quo. And because of that, I welcome the challenge, not in spite of who I am, but because of it. There's no growth without challenge, no learning, no progress, no perspective. Challenge sharpens us, but only when it's rooted in respect, only when it honors the fact that multiple truths can exist in the same room. I don't need everyone to agree with me, but I expect people to engage with the same level of honesty and clarity I bring to the table. That's how we get better. That's how we lead better. Not by avoiding conflict, but by learning how to have it without causing harm. If you've ever worked in a toxic environment, you know it doesn't leave when you do. You carry it. It shows up in small ways. Hesitating before you speak up, bracing for criticism that never comes, second-guessing decisions you're qualified to make. You walk into new rooms wondering if it's going to happen again. You sit in meetings scanning for red flags just in case. Even after the emails stop and the badge doesn't work, part of you is still waiting to be punished for being visible. And I wish I could say the healing is quick, but it's not. But here's what I can say. Toxic leadership thrives on rewriting reality, making you question what you saw, what you heard, what you felt. But you know the truth. Because the hardest part of surviving a toxic culture isn't the work. It's what it does to your worth, the way it makes you forget your values, the way it teaches you to shrink. But that version of you, the bold one, the steady one, the clear-eyed one, is still there. Maybe quieter now, maybe a little more cautious, but not gone. And the work now is to come back to yourself, to take up space again, to trust your instincts again, to believe that your experience matters, not just what you've done, but what you've lived through. And maybe that's what leadership really is. Moving forward after you've been knocked flat, building better because you've seen worse, knowing when to walk away and when to stand your ground. Because sometimes choosing yourself isn't a soft exit. Sometimes it's the bravest thing you'll ever do. My name is JD Hyman. This is the Hyman Podcast. I'll see you next time. This episode of the Hyman Podcast was written, directed, and produced by myself, JD Hyman. Additional research and story development by Whitney Hall and Sherith Guest. Kevin Aki developed our branding with additional graphic design by Grant Furness. Jim Yosef produced and mixed the theme song Canary with additional music scoring and licensing provided by Epidemic Sound. The Hyman Podcast is a production of the Hyman brand. I serve as the show's creator, producer, and principal. To learn more about this podcast, our mission and vision, or to explore sponsorships and guest appearances, visit us on the web at www.jdhyman.com.